All right. Good late morning or early afternoon for some of you. I think, a very great day for the Seattle Seahawks. Still taking it in, still kind of absorbing it all, but there is more stuff to discuss in all that. Like, we can be happy all we want to be, and we definitely deserve to be happy. We should be happy. This is a great hire. It has a very high chance of working out and working out very strongly. But there is some more stuff that we have to go into here. So, first of all, I'm going to be streaming in a little bit here on YouTube, Facebook, and X to discuss this signing. And I'm probably also going to be streaming tonight. So, I'm going to do two separate streams to give everybody an opportunity to discuss this hire as much as possible on stream. So, keep an eye for a stream probably a little after noon, and then there's going to be another stream after everybody gets off from work tonight, so that way everybody has an opportunity to come in. So yeah, we're going to have plenty of opportunities to discuss this hiring. So first thing I want to talk about in this video in terms of like actual substance, the length of the contract for Mike Macdonald, according to Pelissaro and a couple other sources, is 6 years. 6 years, that's no joke. So we gave Mike Macdonald a 6-year contract. That's what D'Amico got last year, which I guess that's kind of the going rate for a hot young assistant, like D'Amico Ryans was last year and like Mike Macdonald is this year. So yeah, sounds about right. But it's a long-term deal, and we're obviously going to, with a deal like that, give him an extended opportunity to show what he can do as a head coach. So if this doesn't go well for a year or a couple years, we're going to stick it out, it looks like. It's not impossible, of course, but I don't think you give somebody a 6-year deal because you're planning on pulling the rug out from underneath them after a couple years. So that's the first part. So Mike Macdonald looks like he's going to be here a while, and I'm here for it. I'm happy about it, excited, willing to give him every opportunity to succeed here, and we'll talk more about that later today. But now that we have him, and by the way, as of me recording this, it's not official yet, but the deal is in place and he just needs to sign it. So I'm not worried about that element at all. If anybody's wondering if he's actually signed it yet, as of me recording this, the answer is no, but there's every reason to believe that he will in the coming couple of hours. So once he's here, there's just a question of his staff, his coaching staff. So let's talk a little bit about how his staff might shape up here, because especially given that he's a defensive guy, that's going to be very, very important. So the first thing we got to talk about is offensive coordinator. First thing we got to talk about is his OC, because him being a defensive guy, the OC matters a lot. And I've seen a few different things out there, a few different reports. There was this, which I don't really know about this source. I don't really know what to say about this, but I just wanted to put this on screen here from Klondike White, whoever that is, because if we actually get Frank Smith, I assume it would have to be as an OC assistant HC situation. Like, inject that into my veins right now. Inject that into my veins right this very second, because Frank Smith as our offensive coordinator would be phenomenal. If we get this, I'm not saying I'm gonna buy the Super Bowl tickets, but I am gonna look up how much they're gonna cost next year. Like, this guy is definitely my number one. I don't even know if it's a possibility. I don't even know if it's a consideration. We did interview with him though, so maybe we looked at him and like decided, yeah, he's not ready to be a head coach, but if we could get him as our assistant head coach and offensive coordinator, now you're talking. So that's interesting. However, if you're looking for guys who are a little more realistic, here are a couple names. Corbin Smith tweeted about this a little bit ago. You got Mike Kafka. That's the big one right now, I think. That's the realistic big one. We're going to try everything that we can to get Mike Kafka here in Seattle. So it would have to be with an assistant head coach title, because the Giants won't let him go otherwise. So if you're getting Kafka, you are going to give him a little extra power. But I think we've learned in the past, the assistant head coach title doesn't necessarily mean that much. It's just kind of a way to get an extra notch on your resume and maybe get a little more money. But if we got Mike Kafka as our assistant head coach and offensive coordinator, that's very exciting to me. That's awesome. That's a guy who is probably on the verge of being a hot head coaching prospect in the next couple of years. So if you get in on him now before he blows up, and I do expect him to blow up in the next couple of years here in a positive way, that's great. And I'm feeling great about this team's imminent future if we get Kafka as the offensive coordinator slash assistant head coach. So if that doesn't happen, a couple names to look out for on the Ravens coaching staff, because realistically, if it's up to Mike Macdonald, he's going to want to fill his staff with guys that he knows and likes from Baltimore. Now, offensively, it probably doesn't matter as much because he's a defensive guy, but there are still some guys that he could consider bringing along with him to Seattle if there's a need to fill it. So the first guy is, I remember this guy playing, T. Martin. So T. Martin is the current Ravens quarterback coach. I got his page up here on Wikipedia here. He's been the quarterback coach for 1 year, and Lamar did look better as a passer in 2023, that's for sure. So his impact on Lamar Jackson is significant and led to much better results in 2023, regardless of what happened last week. He was a wide receiver coach for a couple years before being the quarterback coach. Now, Baltimore's wide receivers not generally considered to be some of the best guys out there, but he's building experience. And at the end of the day, he's a former quarterback. I remember when he won the national championship with Tennessee. So it's not surprising that he would probably do his best work as a quarterback coach. And when you're an offensive coordinator, your rapport and connection with your quarterback is obviously the most important thing. Before then, he was with Tennessee. He spent a bunch of time at USC. We got Kentucky, and then we got New Mexico and a bunch of stuff in high school that that stuff doesn't really matter that much. But T. Martin is definitely a candidate to be your offensive coordinator if a couple other big guns fall through here. And I mean, I'm not enamored by it, admittedly. I don't love it, but I understand that everybody's a nobody until there is somebody. And if you have to get a guy like a T. Martin now and just hope it pans out down the line, then so be it. So this is a guy who's going to be on the list if we can't land one of the bigger guns. And the last guy that Corbin Smith brings up here, also an interesting candidate, would be Danny Breyer, Ravens offensive quality control coach. Now, this would be him kind of cutting in line, I think. If you take a look at Danny Breyer, offensive quality control coach, usually you have to work your way up a little bit from there, right? Like, this guy was an offensive assistant and run game specialist with Atlanta for 3 years, was an analytics guy and assistant coach in Tampa Bay for a little bit. I did work with Todd Monken when he was in Tampa Bay. So this guy, I feel like him being an offensive coordinator right now would be jumping the line. But again, sometimes you jump the line. Sometimes you get a position you don't fully deserve yet because everybody around you just knows you're going to be good at it. Like Sean McVay was not that good of an offensive coordinator before he became a head coach, but people just knew that guy was going to be great. And sure enough, he's been great. So if they decide they want to have him cut the line a little bit, then I'm not going to argue against it too much. But personally for me, I'm hoping we can do better than Danny Breyer, and I'm hoping we can do a little better than T. Martin. I want a little bit more of a known commodity, somebody like a Kafka, or especially my guy, Frank Smith. But there are other guys out there as well that are kind of more of a middle ground. Probably a couple of guys out there that have a little bit more relevant experience. So I'm going to be open-minded here when it comes to the offensive coordinator, but this is important because when you get a defensive head coach, you need to hit the coordinator. Now, the second part of this would be the defensive coordinator, and that doesn't matter as much because you got Macdonald, and he should be pretty good. So the likely candidates are probably going to come from in-house in Baltimore. So Macdonald is going to want somebody he has a comfort level with, somebody he has a relationship with, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not nearly as concerned about that as I would be on the offensive side. So you go look at the Ravens list of assistant coaches they got on their website here. The big gun is Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver, former player. He's been a coach in the NFL for quite some time. He's been an assistant head coach this year for the Ravens. Pull up his Wikipedia page. You can see that he's actually been the associate head coach for 2 years. defensive line coach, run game coordinator, defensive coordinator for 1 year in Houston, defensive line coach, a lot of defensive line experience going through his ledger. All of it in the NFL almost. He's been in the NFL for over a decade. So there's no fear of him like just being over his head as a defensive coordinator. In fact, he's been a defensive coordinator before for a, Houston Texans team that was not especially good on that side of the ball, but he's done it before in some capacity. So Anthony Weaver might be the big gun that Macdonald tries to bring along with him. Definitely down for that. But if it's not Anthony Weaver, there are going to be some other guys that he might bring along with him on the coaching staff as a defensive coordinator or even a position below that. You've got Zachary Orr, the linebacker coach. He's done great work with Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. You got Matt Robinson, defensive quality control coach. Chuck Smith, I believe I remember when he was a player. Daniel Stern. I think that, Denard Wilson was the other guy I was looking at here. He's been a coach for quite a while now. So there's some real good options here to bring in from Baltimore. I assume we're going to get at least a couple of them. And then from there, we're going to build out the rest of the staff with guys that we probably haven't even really heard of, like quarterback coach, wide receiver coach, defensive line coach, linebacker coach. We're going to build it out of guys that are so far down the rungs right now that we're not even really given the opportunity to be familiar with them. So, yeah, this is important. This is big. This is relevant, but I'm excited regardless of what happens because I think we nailed this head coaching hire. Rooting very hard to get Kafka or Frank Smith in here as the OC, but if it's somebody a little bit lower than that, then I'm willing to live with that. I'm going to trust Macdonald's judgment on the guys that he worked with in Baltimore, and if it doesn't work, then guess what? Coordinators are easy to move off of and find new ones. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Gonna stream later today, probably a little afternoon, and we'll talk about the hire, and then we'll stream again later in the evening. All right, go Hawks.